Fandemic, hosted by my dad, a podcast about catching up and nerding out.
With anyone whose awesomeness levels rival mine.
So level up your awesomeness and welcome to the Fandemic.
Welcome to the Fandemic. This is a podcast about looking at some part of pop culture, and then we're going to go do a deep dive and see where we end up. I'm the self-proclaimed Emperor of Awesome, Bradley Butin, and this is director, writer, producer, wearer of many hats, including actor and author, Jeremy Norrie. Jeremy has been involved with production of documentaries like The Other Side of the Ring, The Secret Cup, the book Jack Moves, which I just read the other day, a memoir of the weed trade and dangerous living. I've been there too, and so much more. Jeremy, first off, thank you for leveling up my awesomeness today, and welcome to the Fandemic. The first thing I like to ask everyone I talk to, what are you a big fan of?
Well, first, thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate it. I'm a big fan of a lot of things. You can kind of see some of the things that I like from my film topics.
Yes.
Because I am able to kind of choose what projects I work on. And so that gives me the opportunity of exploring things that I'm interested in. So like UFOs, I'm interested in that. But I also love martial arts and pro wrestling and mindfulness and all kinds of things, animals. So, yeah.
Yeah, I love like Bigfoot. I just love the story of Bigfoot. I mean, Chewbacca. I've loved Bigfoot ever since Chewbacca. When I was introduced to that in the early '80s, moon landings, all. I love a good conspiracy theory. The Illuminati and the moon landing hoax. Now, my favorite. I wouldn't say conspiracy theory, but kind of hoax. Have you ever heard of the first moon landing hoax?
I'm not sure. I've heard a lot of stuff about the moon landing being a hoax, and I've gone back and forth with what I think myself, and I've seen some pretty solid evidence that I don't know that it's arguable that at least some of the footage of that stuff is fake.
Yeah, so this actually takes place 100 years before that. There was Sir William something. Now I can't think of his name, but he was knighted in England, moved to New York, and he wrote 12 or 10 articles in the equivalent of the New York Times back then about this telescope that he had built that he could see the surface of the moon, and there was bat-like creatures and diamond pyramids and all these things, and for weeks, like, this was the way of the world. They published everything, and then at the end he came out and said that, yeah, in fact, this this is all just a joke, haha, on you. And to me, that is like one of the coolest things ever. This guy is probably one of my favorite people that have ever lived.
Yeah, I like stories like that. There's a number of UFO stories that are kind of cultural. So it even though here we are in 2022, I'm still hearing new stories about things from the past, and I think that's fascinating.
Yeah, you mentioned mindfulness. Are you into Reiki at all or anything like that?
So the like healing with your mind, concentrating.
Yes.
So I have had I did an interview with somebody that does that, and it's fascinating. I've never experienced it.
I'm a Reiki master, actually. I don't really practice it really anymore. When I get into deep meditation, I just feel like I just have weird dreams forever. So I don't really do that too much anymore. But when I was attuned, man, I came out just sweating. I think I probably lost a pound in sweat. And ever since then, I every time I try to go into like meditate for more than like 5 or 10 minutes, I just for days I just have the weirdest weird dreams, and not always the greatest. So I just like, all right, well, I'm not gonna really worry about it.
Interesting. So I have a film that's just about to come out, and it's a short film that's part of a bigger project. So I'm doing a sequel to our film I Want to Believe. So we have a big project that will all be eventually for. But we have a small project based on a couple of people I interviewed, and one of the guys, he is like a CE5 experiencer. He goes to sleep and he has like dreams on spaceships, and it's fascinating.
That is amazing. I love that. Stuff like that, just like you can't watch that stuff and not let your mind just explore the world. And I'm a creative thinker. Although I will say I have a hard time getting the creativeness onto paper, but I do my best.
Yeah, it's easier said than done. I wrote a book, right? But it took me many years. I wrote half that book, and then it sat unwritten for maybe like 10 years.
Yeah.
So, you can always pick it back up, and now's the time. There's all kinds of opportunities now to do stuff and be creative and put your stuff out there. So it's not like prior to getting into what I'm doing now, I've worked on things that they're not out. We did all this work, and
and that's gonna be a bummer.
Yeah,
that's gonna be like, man, this would be so awesome right now.
That's 95% of filmmaking.
Wow.
So like when you see, this is one of the things that I don't like about filmmaking is there's a lot of dishonesty, a lot of people that are just kind of, they're in it to make money, and they don't really care if the projects are successful, and so they're not entirely honest about like the likelihood of the projects being successful. So we briefly touched on cannabis. Cannabis world is now experiencing a lot of like filmmaking opportunity.
Yeah.
And it is so dishonest, and the companies don't want cannabis stuff. Like I have cannabis stuff. Amazon doesn't want it, like these places don't want it. And so they're the only ones that pay decent money. So a lot of these projects that are going to get made are just going to get made, and they may end up somewhere. They may end up just getting released in some sort of very small way eventually. Hopefully, if I worked with somebody where they did a project and they were just holding it for ransom. They had spent a certain amount of money and they were just waiting to someday get that amount, or they were just not going to release it.
Man, that's one thing. I suffered from not, hey, I can't do this, and I did a podcast with a buddy of mine a while back, and then I'm like, forever I was talking, I want to do my own podcast. I want to do my vision. I don't want to answer questions from anybody else. I just want to do what I want to do, and I finally did it, and I did for a while, and it kind of went off topic, and then I kind of did some course correcting. I had a spin off of that. I still do. I go to another podcast called Prevenge of the Nerds. I do with a really good buddy of mine. We meet every week, and we just nerd out. And that's our like, okay, what are we going to talk about? We've talked. I mean, we pitched a prequel to The Princess Bride, which is a movie that should never be touched. One of the only perfect movies in the world. And we just kind of have a lot of fun. And then this, I'm really trying to just kind of talk to really interesting people and to see where we go.
Yeah, I think that's the bottom line of a story. So what I do is in filmmaking is tell a story, right? And what people like for the most part is a hero's journey, is what we call it. And that generally consists of like identifying with a character on some sort of like personal level or something where you kind of empathize with them. And then that character experiences adversity in some sort of way. Yeah. And then they either overcome it or they kind of figure out some sort of resolution to avoid the problem or whatever it is, And I guess sometimes you will just succumb to the adversity. That is the thing in some stories, but that's the hero journey, and people want to kind of ride that road with you, and experience the up, and then like the joy of like overcoming it, and then like in some situations just like huge overcoming and total success from like the opposite of like total failure. Those are the best journeys for an audience. So whether you're telling a fiction story or whether you're telling a true story, that's kind of what we try to do.
I love that. I love that. So I'm a pretty big storyteller and also a pretty big nerd. And I must admit, I love a good origin story. Can you tell me what is your origin story?
Well, if you saw my book, that's a big part of it. You know,
Mhm.
my book is kind of how I got started into this whole world. And for me, my origin story is essentially cannabis. I guess there's a little bit of mixed martial arts really early on,
Mhm.
where I was a journalist doing that kind of stuff first. And then that kind of opened the doors to cannabis in a mainstream way. I sold weed, you know, back then too. But I became a cannabis journalist. And then once that door opened, then it led me to like this whole world of the industry of cannabis, of companies doing legal business in this world. And a lot of those companies early on were just like cannabis associated, like maybe they made a package or they made a product that wasn't cannabis, but it was used with cannabis in some sort of way, or magazine, which is what I wrote for. And there's all kinds of things. And that opened the door. So I did so many things in that world. I tried all kinds of different, I grew cannabis, I made hash, I did all of these things. And in the process of doing that, my life became an adventure. And like I have all these robberies. I was home invaded numerous times.
Wow.
Like it was this crazy journey of like ups and downs where I had huge highs and then terrible lows. And that ultimately became to where like I stopped doing some of the more criminal activities and I started doing other activities that walked the line. And then I was having situations where I'm like walking the line with authorities in all kinds of like different states, different countries, and like experiencing all of that. And I got arrested. You know, I didn't always escape these situations, although a lot. You know, I feel like the Matrix with my experience in all of it. But that's what led me to filmmaking. And I love what I do now. And even my book, I don't know that I'll ever write another book. My book is mostly about that history of those times when it was so crazy and all the bad things that happened. And, you know, the less I have to tell those stories and the more I can be like, go read the book, good for me. Those are negative experiences that made me who I am. And filmmaking is what I want to do. And the journey of cannabis brought me to this place. The film The Secret Cup kind of encapsulates that because that was my first project that became a real film. And it took 9 years.
Wow.
But here we are. Yeah.
You did it. Yeah. I was pretty bad. I was in the military. I actually got out of the military. I was actually discharged, a general discharge. I was with a bunch of people that were smoking weed, and they said, and so I was kind of grouped in there. And if I would have known that we were all going to get booted, I would have just done it. But at that time, you know, whatever. But yeah, I had hard drug problems. We all do. I'll go through those, you know, that life, and it shapes who you are today. And you do your best, and you hope that you're a good person, a better person today than you were yesterday. You know, and so now are you? Have you always lived in California?
I have. Yep. I grew up here. My dad is from Scotland, so I have a very different upbringing than the typical Californian. But yes, I grew up in the valley, and then I lived in Hollywood for most of my life, and now I live in the mountains in Big Bear.
That's also. And did you get power back?
I did, yes. You know, I got power back like a few hours after I posted that thing. It wasn't all night. It was
That's
nowhere
good.
near. Yeah.
Been
They say
there.
that a lot, so usually
Yeah.
it's not as bad as they say.
Yeah, I'm in Iowa, so mountains are very, very. I can't even say few. I mean, like far between. Yeah, I used to live out in Spokane, Washington, when I was in the service, and my daughter actually goes to school in Seattle, and she's crushing musical theater out there. She's making life her bitch. I'm proud of you. Love you, girl. Um, and so another thing that I was gonna want to bring up is what work, and I think I know the answer, but what work are you most proud of?
Oh, hmm. So you might not know the answer to this. So we have six. I'm gonna make this a long answer if that's
Go for
okay.
it. Yeah, yeah.
um, we have films that are very successful.
Mhm.
Okay, and I've done events and I've done things that are very successful, and I'm
Mhm.
very proud of those things. You know, and those give me the opportunity to do the things that I'm able to do, and of course when I'm talking to certain people, those are going to be the things that I want to tell them. They're the most impressive things that I've done. You know, in many ways, I could probably get in the mindset of thinking that that's my most important things to me.
Yeah.
But um, that's not my. When I think about what is most important to me, I think about helping other people.
Mhm.
And maybe that's from my life of having so much adversity and having to overcome quite a lot of it on my own. And then, of course, also there are people who have helped me, who it's been this tremendous thing that has definitely helped me be where I am today. Without that, I don't think I would be. And so, my most important films are not my most successful films. They're, in fact, my least successful films. And that really makes me upset a lot of times
Mhm.
because this should be what is most important to everyone. It shouldn't be a situation where I'm like, yeah, I made a film about bullying and I made a film about mindfulness and I made a film about animal rehabilitation and um, the first ever African American Humor Awards where they were getting recognized for the first time. All these things that are like really important to the world concepts. And meanwhile, like my Bigfoot movie, just you cannot stop it. People just want to know, watch that Bigfoot movie or my UFO stuff or whatever else like that. I call it the strange phenomenon genre of my filmmaking. And all of those do really well. And we don't have to market them. We don't have to do anything because people just, that's
Yeah.
what they care about.
Yeah.
And I wish that my animal rehabilitation film had half the popularity of Bigfoot or whatever. But that's why I do a lot of these things. And when I do get the opportunity to speak about it, I always take the opportunity to point out um, my helpful films. And I also like to point out, like, so let's say in my Bigfoot movie that I prove Bigfoot exists. You know, let's say that I do that in my movie. The world is going to be exactly the same the next day. Basically,
Mhm.
nothing happens. There's a bunch of people that are going to be like, see, I was right. And maybe there's more TV shows that can be made or something.
Mhm.
This is a meaningless thing, you know, like even at the best thing possible. UFOs, maybe a little more, but even UFOs, like all these things, I don't know that it's going to impact the world the way that, like, man, if everyone watched my mindfulness thing and started doing that every day, the world would be a different place. And you know, and as a filmmaker, that is the struggle because those are the things that give me purpose. I want to do those projects, but then if I'm doing projects based on financial, or if there was like an algorithm deciding what projects I should be doing, it'd
Mhm.
be UFOs and Bigfoot all day long. None of those stories would ever get told about mindfulness or bullying or anything important. So,
Very cool. Yeah, I used to work for the state here in Iowa where I would help people get jobs and I would go do help people interview and help them write resumes and stuff like that. Then COVID hit, got fired. So and then I did another soulful job where I was where I was a high school teacher, just helping seniors graduate from high school, learning those skills. And then out of the blue, got fired. And, it's just like, man. So now I'm a marketing and events manager for a local theater and love what I do, work a ton of hours, work hard, and, but now it's a me job instead of a soulful job. And it's kind of crazy how that stuff kind of happens. You're like, I'm trying to leave my mark here and just kind of get slapped around, but it is what it is and we can't change it.
Yeah, and my life would be a lot different if I didn't get to do the fun stuff also.
Mm-hmm.
So I do love getting into all of that stuff and imagining all the possibilities of some of these things and what could be out there. And then, seeing the reality of some stuff that you've talked about, kind of, and when you talk about a 1,000 things, one of those 1,000 things might turn out to be true. And I love those moments where it's like, oh, wow, where's this story going to go?
Yeah. Oh, so much. So, Jeremy, what are some of your favorite movies, TV shows, and podcasts?
Oh, wow. I like so much. I like many, many movies. I'm a sci-fi guy for the most part. And so I go, of course, with traditional, like all the Star Wars movies I loved.
Right.
And I love almost any sci-fi. I love the Predator movie. I love all the Predator movies, even the bad ones. I love the Alien movies. I love all those kinds of movies. The Dune movie that just was done, I thought was phenomenal.
So amazing.
I'm so excited about where that's going to go. And those are my style movies for the most part. I also like adventure movies, and I like all the 80s movies and like fun stuff like that. Some of my favorite movies, let's see. So when people ask me what are my favorite movies, right? So I usually go to Dazed and Confused is my favorite movie. But recently there was another movie that I thought, oh, that's right. Okay. So one of my other favorite movies is Natural Born Killers.
Oh, God, such a good movie. Juliette Lewis.
Yeah, and I love that movie for a bunch of reasons. Like Quentin Tarantino wrote the original kind of thing, but then the movie is Oliver Stone. So it's not like a Quentin Tarantino thing really, but it has moments where it kind of is.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Woody Harrelson, this is like a breakout kind of role for him.
Yeah.
And Juliette Lewis, like, it's just, there's just so much. Robert Downey Jr., like, there's so much.
Yeah. I forgot he was in that.
Yeah, Robert Downey Jr., Tommy Lee. Tommy Lee Jones.
Man, one of my favorite Robert Downey Jr. movies is Bang! Oh gosh, it's Bang Bang. He's like a detective. Why can't
Kiss Bang Bang.
Kiss Bang Bang. Yes, that and Zodiac. Man, right when he was on the urge of coming back with Iron Man. Oh gosh, like those couple movies that he did were just so good. That Kiss Bang Bang was just a phenomenal movie. I love those kind of movies that like kind of takes their own path to get to where they're going to go.
And he's transformative. Like when him as Wayne Gale in the Natural Born Killers movie is like, it's phenomenal. It's like some of these performances I don't think ever got the credit they deserve. Yeah. That performance is ridiculous. It's so good.
I do concur. And man, don't want to talk about somebody that has, really transformed his life. I mean, through, pure will of himself. I think I remember reading somewhere it was martial arts and a couple other things that really kind of helped him get mindful to, be the power star he is today. Although it wasn't the
things, it's always the same things.
Yeah, absolutely. I will say Dr. Doolittle, that one wasn't very
good. Man. You're not going to get all winners, but
right. You can't be Iron Man and everything.
Actor, right? So.
Yeah. Do you think he'll ever come back tomorrow?
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things where it's like it's not fun right now, but like
Mhm.
in 10 years or 20 years, or the likelihood that they come up with some sort of like cameo character or something, it's super likely.
Yeah.
So
Well,
yeah,
especially with the multiverse and Secret Wars, and I
yeah,
mean, yeah, Marvel is just a never-ending ship, and we can speculate on what the Kang Dynasty is and how it's going to relate to Secret. I'm a huge comic book nerd, so like I know all those stories, and I have theorized in my brain, and like I know what I think is canon. So, yeah, yeah, that's
awesome.
another day.
Yeah, I
that
love all the comic book stuff. I mean, it's getting to be where it's overkill now, and they're kind of playing it out, and like
Mhm.
I don't know where that's gonna go. Like, where are we gonna go? Crime thrillers. I don't know what's gonna be the next kind of popular thing, but for kids, I see the appeal. I mean, what's better than a comic book for a kid? A superhero and
Right. And you get those in the form of TV shows now, pretty much. I mean, uh, man, Netflix had some really good stuff like Shadow and Bone and Lock and Key. Lock and Key was just fantastic. I mean, every season and all 3 seasons that they did were just love it, love it, love it. And it was written by Stephen King's son, Joe Hill.
oh,
So I mean, so cool, so cool.
yeah, there's a big world of content out right now because of all the streaming platforms and all the different things, and kind of the way the world shifted to where everything is now independent. And so it's created this opportunity for a lot of different projects to kind of get their platform to where they can kind of build a following. And it's really hard for me to keep up with so many things because there are so many that are pretty good. Like if you're watching Netflix,
Mhm.
they're recommending stuff to you all the time.
Yeah.
They've never ending new stuff if you only want to watch Netflix. But then Hulu has great content, and then Apple TV even has stuff. I mean, YouTube has great stuff.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's a wild world of all these different things, and like you can kind of binge watch stuff. So I've found out about shows, and then like, oh, I can. It's 3 seasons in. I'll watch all the seasons, and it's a cool world for TV. I'm hoping that it moves away from TV because I think film has really suffered.
It
That
has.
I prefer most of these stories as a film. I think
Mhm.
that the large majority of TV shows are just dragging out a story to fill their time slots or whatever. Like
Yeah,
I don't
Star Wars
think,
Andor.
yeah, I don't think I haven't watched that yet. I think there is going to be a situation where like some people have a story that's so great you can't tell it in a movie, and then
Yeah.
you want to tell that in a television show. But then there's stories that are just they're really not that much, and they'd be better as a movie. And I'd rather see that kind of go back to quite a lot of these projects.
Yeah, and I'll just say working in the movies, I mean, man, I'm so glad that we've been busy the last couple weeks. I mean, Black Adam, is amazing. I mean, I'll tell you what, like with Wakanda Forever, the general manager like, dude, you're not going to be off for a while because I go in front of the auditorium and I'm gonna throw out some of my Marvel knowledge. I just did Marvel Cinematic Universe trivia last night, so I mean creating all the hype for everything. But it is good to finally see like people coming back
Oh yeah,
in drones, and I mean even Ticket to Paradise is just killing it. Uh, uh
really
yeah, well, here in Ankeny, Iowa, it is. I mean, man, I,
great.
I'm not a big fan of that type of movie. I mean, I'll watch it at home, or if my wife wants to go see it, we'll go see it. But
That's what it's for.
yeah, yeah. I'm like, I wasn't, I don't care that his Batman had nipples. I mean, like, whatever, I just tell a good story and you got
Yeah.
me. But
I go to the movies all the time, and the empty seats worry me. So I'm glad you're
mm,
saying all this.
yeah, I mean, man, I bet you, I mean, Wakanda Forever. I mean, we have a lot of pre-sales for that. So, I mean, got to hand it to Marvel and DC and all them. I mean, getting people back. And with Ticket to Paradise, that's just a good sign for that older generation finally ready to come back.
I have the AMC Movie Pass, and so I love it. And I get 3 movies a week, and it's like $30 a month. It's like I feel like I'm robbing a bank with how good the deal is, right? So I go to movies all the time, and I go off time. I'll go by myself.
Yeah.
And so I've had plenty of times where I'm the only one in the whole theater, and I love movies. I do not want that to go away. And I think in my head, man, I hope they figure it out, and I guess if you're just making enough on these big movies, that's going to be enough to keep it all going. But I get worried.
Yeah, well, then it doesn't help those people with those ideas. Then we just got people just doing the same thing over and over and over again. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think Wakanda Forever is going to be fantastic. I mean, I'm going to go to it as soon as I can, and but I like those different things. Like I'm looking for the Glass Onion, even though we're not going to get it. I mean, like I like those movies that make you think. Like when I walk out of the theater and be like, did I like this or not? Like those are the ones that that really get me. We're never going to get that Luke, I'm your father, type of reveal again.
Yeah, it's weird. I saw a movie that kind of flew under the radar. Oh, what was it called? Like well, Ashton Kutcher was in it.
Oh.
So it's got to be the last movie that he was in.
Yeah.
And he plays a character in it it's phenomenal. The character is amazing. And he has this moment where he's like explaining to this guy, like, he's like, how are you going to fall in love anymore? You just go on these things and they're just like recommending things that they already know that you like. And you're never going to be able to figure out what you like because you're just listening to this thing that's like calculating these things. And I cannot do justice to how eloquent this little dialogue portion of the movie is. And it's like, thank you. Someone is saying this, because while I love the algorithms telling me what to like and everything like that, thankfully I am mindful enough to know that I have to step out of my box. I have to try and explore other things that the algorithm might think I don't like. I need to chance it. And it might say that I'm definitely not going to like it. And that's the way that you learn in life, is you have to be able to kind of step outside those boundaries of just like living in a bubble. And that gives you, like what they say, right? Variety is the spice of life. It gives you this new opportunity to enjoy something that maybe you would have never enjoyed before.
It's the no thank you bite. Like, it's like we preach it to our kids. We're like, hey, how do you know you don't like it if you don't try it? And they don't want to. Like, take one bite, and then they just take a little nibble, and it's not really a bite. But yeah, you're absolutely 100% correct. That's one thing. I'm like, I'm lucky because I mean I work with these, so I get to go to these movies for free. But a lot of people, like, it's hard. Like, hey, I'm gonna go drop $20 and for a ticket, and then another 20 for concessions, and it's just like, yeah, do I got $40 to spend? I mean, between gas and everything like that. So what's the price to get out of your head for a little bit? So, it's kind of, if
they could come up with like some more affordable food options and like things that didn't ruin my diet and stuff like that, I would love to spend a little bit more on food at the theater. And it's just they need to dial that in. That whole experience of what you're able to get other than just the movie, that's where you figure it out. Like, and I don't know if I could ever get to talk to any sort of movie people, but you have to create an experience that is more than just seeing the movie. You want people to want to stay in the theater. When I was a kid, I remember one of the theaters just had an arcade, and all of us kids just hung out in the theater. And we bought soda and we bought stuff because we were there.
Yeah.
That's the answer. If they can figure out another way of doing this, maybe incorporate gaming. I don't know. You got to figure out some sort of a way to keep people in the theater and like enjoying being in there because they're really nice.
Yeah, that's actually exactly what I'm doing. Actually, I mean, I do trivia one Tuesday, and then I do movie bingo the next Tuesday, and then I do an Uno tournament the first Thursday of every month. I'm getting ready to launch. I came up. I broke my own code. I'm going to do a live action game of Clue. So
Yeah,
kind of
make it a
explore
meeting
stuff.
place, a community. Like that's the
Mhm.
answer. I love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, that's how I came up with the Emperor of Awesome. It's my whole little shtick for my trivia and all that stuff is I'm the self-proclaimed Emperor of Awesome, and I became that's trying to get people to open up, and I'll do magic tricks. I've been doing magic for a long time, so I'll do like magic tricks and stuff like that, and so people can be like, yeah, okay, I'm gonna go to a movie, but we also have an arcade and a bowling alley, so it's kind of everything at once. So trying to really focus on like, you know what? Come here for the day. You don't have to come here for just one movie. Come here for the day. Come here and bowl for an hour and go play in the arcade. We have human sized hungry hippos where you get on there and you play.
I
Right. It's
love
like we have an awesome Space Invaders. And like this is what you're supposed to do is have the
That's
day.
Rusty. That's the answer to it. And if all movie theaters kind of became that,
Mhm.
we would have a successful business model for movies.
Yeah, but I don't even go to. I did go to one theater out in Seattle last time I went and saw the kid. We saw Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness there, and it just wasn't. I mean, it was a good movie, but like I was like, man, I'm missing my theater seats, So
Yeah, out here in California, it's basically like just really nice seats. Like they kind of vary. Certain
Mhm.
theaters have different kind of options on. They'll have heated seats. You can recline a little bit more or a little bit less in certain ones. Like, but that's basically the model of everything. Some of them have like a bar in the theater where you
Oh
can
yeah.
kind of get drinks and stuff.
Mhm.
Most of them don't, and it's just candy and snacks. It's like get your candy and snacks, go see the movie, leave.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't want you to stick around. We want you to come back. Yeah, it's we're hopefully we're doing things a little bit opposite, but we'll get there. We'll get there. I have faith.
Yeah, I do see some theaters incorporating cool things like film festivals and stuff like
Mhm.
that. And the more you can make, like I said, a community, and that's how you make it.
Awesome. So now I love the idea of different universes put into Star Wars. So what Disney property do you think would make an amazing Star Wars horror story?
Oh, wow. So I did just work on my first horror movie with my partner, and he makes horror movies. That's what he used to do more before we started doing so many documentaries. Um, wow. So there's I don't want to I don't want to say the wrong thing because this is such a cool thing. There's so many cool things that could be that. And did you say Star Wars or Disney in general?
A little bit of both. I mean, you can go off of Disney, but like take some sort of like one of the Disney properties and make it a horror story set in Star Wars. So you can use the long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. Snow White was the emperor. I mean, whatever you want to do.
Okay.
What kind of story do you think would fit right into that? Long time ago in a galaxy far, far away.
It's interesting. So, like, one of the cool things about a lot of the Disney stuff is if you see the original fairy tales, they're kind of more horror.
Yes, they are.
They're
Little
really
Mermaid comes into mind really quick.
yeah. There's a bunch of weird ones that
Mhm.
are like when you see the original stories, they're kind of scary.
The Ice Princess.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah. And I don't normally gravitate towards that, and I never thought about this. So, and Disney's doing so much cool stuff with their characters right now. Like
Yeah.
originally, my first thought was like Boba Fett, but
Yeah.
then you're like, well, you can't really do anything with that character now because they're kind of like making that whole world
Yeah.
thing. Um, you know, I guess the sand creatures are pretty scary in Star Wars.
The Jawas and stuff like that.
Yeah, there's that. There's I mean, of course, like the Sleeping Beauty stuff is kind of scary with the witch that becomes the dragon and everything. Oh, there's Fantasia.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, there's a bunch of characters in Fantasia that would probably work really well as a horror. Isn't there like a giant devil?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so. Man,
there's a giant devil. Yeah.
I don't even think I remember. I remember like the 2000 Fantasia, like it was like the 20th anniversary or something. But like I barely remember the original Fantasia.
Yeah, I don't know that I remember it either. Wasn't the new one was just a remastered? I think they're very similar.
Okay. Yeah. I couldn't even tell you. It's been so long.
Oh, I thought of something. Okay, so this is a cool thing. If you don't know, the Disney thing they're doing right now, where they're like, oh, let's take characters and do spin-off stories about them and stuff. They actually did that a long time ago with some of the original stuff in Star Wars. And there are 2 Ewok movies.
Yes, there are.
From like the way back in those times.
Yeah.
And there's characters in those Ewok movies that are like really scary. There's like this giant that's in the first one. And I could see that, like that giant having a really cool storyline where like does some pretty horrific stuff to characters, whatever. You could put it in all kinds of situations, I suppose. You can make him like like the Rancor or something. And awesome. So there's that giant, and then the very next one, there's like all these like ogre characters. And that second Ewok movie, I love it. It's so good. I would recommend it to anybody that likes Star Wars. It's one of my top Star Wars movies.
Wow. I haven't watched those probably since the late 80s.
It's so good. The second one is so great. And granted, if you don't like the Ewoks, maybe you won't like it.
I like the Ewoks. I mean, like, man, that Ewoks made Return of the Jedi. It was the barge scene and the Ewoks. I mean, we all well, I take that back. There's one other thing from Return of the Jedi, the slave Leia.
Oh yeah.
Well, can't forget that. Well, I guess that'd be the barge scene.
My favorite of the Star Wars original 3 is Empire. I think
mine too. Yeah.
This part of it is because it's ups and downs, right? There's a lot of downers. There's a lot of great stuff in it. It's a really wonderful movie in a lot of ways, and visually, etc. The Ewok movie is just like that. They begin the movie with like, spoiler alert, they kill off a bunch of characters from the other movie.
Yeah.
And then they kind of move on to this other storyline of where they're going to go with it. And it's visually cool in a lot of ways. There's all kinds of other stuff going on with it that's cool. And I love the like mix of like super downer, like especially they start it so like, hey, all the few of these people you like from the last movie dead.
Yeah,
so, I like that.
Well, yeah, because I guess when you get hit and you get down as far as you can, and it's a journey to get back up, I guess. So yeah, absolutely, I love it. Yeah, I'm actually working on hopefully I want to do a podcast scripted show is kind of me and a buddy of mine, the guy that I do Revenge of the Nerd, Brian. We've been kind of talking about that, so we're kind of kicking around ideas. So
like an old school horror radio show type.
Yeah. We're gonna focus it around kind of with a lot of like kind of superhero-y tropes, but like a comet goes by and now 1% of the world has abilities, and it's going to take place in the form of a support group, an online support group. So we'll like do it on YouTube or something like that, like we're doing on StreamYard.
Cool.
And then but like but these abilities aren't really super, they're like super-ish. So like one person can fly but only 6 feet in the air, like one person's all of his extremities and all are invisible, so it's just a walking torso. One person can talk to inanimate objects, one, just kind of play around with like what kind of abilities like could be really cool if they're put with other stuff. So we've been kind of kicking around that for a few months. So hopefully we'll get that done sometime soon. So
I think that's great, and I love. Look, those things can be popular now. Like,
yeah,
it's obviously fun to do, but you never know what can happen.
yeah, absolutely. So I got a couple of rapid fire questions for you. Are you ready?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
All right. Favorite movie?
Oh, well, I just answered that. Dazed and Confused or Natural Born Killers.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
Favorite Marvel movie?
Ooh, that first Iron Man movie was like so amazing.
Yeah.
It was like a real movie. But I really did like the Doctor Strange movie. I guess I'll go with the first Iron Man movie. That one is really solid, and it started the whole thing, really.
I would concur. I'm always a toss up between Iron Man and Doctor Strange, just because who would have thought Doctor Strange? But then again, who would have thought Iron Man 2 would have started all this?
Yeah, I mean, I love Blade and those movies too.
Mm-hmm.
But man, that first Iron Man movie was like it really was like a real movie and a comic book movie, and
yeah.
I think that's the first one that was like kind of serious in that way, where like people went and saw it and it was more than what they thought it was going to be.
Definitely, it is in the same category as Superman 78, Batman 89, and Iron Man 08,
Yeah, I do love that. The Batman Returns. I love that movie too.
Batman Returns is one of my favorite Christmas movies.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Batman Returns, Die Hard, and the Hawkeye show are my Christmas go-tos. Drives my wife nuts.
Yeah, those are good ones.
Yep.
I have a bunch of ones like that. So one of the things I'd like to do is make a narrative movie that's about a bunch of guys that get together every Christmas to watch Christmas movies. And each guy has like their own little spin on the movies they like. And so obviously some of them are like typical Christmas movies, but then a couple of the guys are like kind of this other kind of Christmas movie, like the Die Hard, Reindeer Games. Go is another Christmas movie that's great. Like there's a lot of Christmas movies that don't seem like Christmas movies.
Oh yeah, absolutely. All right. What about your favorite DC movie?
This one they just did, I thought was great. That Justice League, the long one especially.
Mm-hmm.
Like wow, that was a great movie.
Yeah, the 6 hour Zack Snyder cut.
Yep. That was an incredible. Was it 6? I thought it was 4.
Or 4 hour. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, 4 hour.
But amazing. Yeah, really, really good. And like, I watched that movie and it was good all the way through. I did not get super bored during it. And that's a statement,
Mm-hmm.
It was a great movie.
I don't think I could ever go away from either The Dark Knight or Batman, 89 Batman.
Yeah. The Batman movies are all like, and it's hard, like the Joker movie that just came out. I mean,
yeah. Man, I'm actually looking forward to the sequel, The Harley Quinn with Lady Gaga. I think it's going to be freaking amazing.
Yeah, I like those too. I like the Suicide Squad. I like all that stuff. Yeah. I like the Joker, even the take on that. I like different stuff.
It's fun. It's what it's supposed to be. It's not supposed to be super deep. I mean, like they're supposed to be fun. Are you not entertained? Russell Crowe said it best in one of the greatest movies ever, Gladiator.
Yeah, there's so many.
Awesome. What about favorite sword and sorcery movie?
Oh, I like a few of those. The what is it? The Sword and the Stone. The one where the guy has the sword and it's like 3 swords.
Is it is that Excalibur?
No, it's the swords like shoot out.
Oh,
Like, you know what I'm talking about? Like I think it's
yes.
the sword and the stone,
I think you're right.
but or maybe it's the sword and the sorcerer, something like that. I love that movie. I also love a movie called Krull.
With Kevin Sorbo?
I believe, yeah.
Yes, absolutely. It was like right in the middle of all of his Hercules awesomeness.
Yeah, it's like that kind of a movie that and I love that. But like if I'm going traditional, like out of all of them, I think I'd just go with Braveheart. You know,
Awesome.
Braveheart. The action scenes in that are just they're phenomenal.
Yes, I absolutely. All right, and last question: what's your favorite song to rock out to?
Oh wow, that changes all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I like a couple 80s songs a lot. I like the "You Spin Me Right Round Like a Record" song. I like a lot, and I like "Don't You Want Me, Baby." I like that song from the 80s. I like 80s songs. Pretty much any great 80s song.
Yeah, I used to listen to like 80s hair metal. Like the Peacemaker show was like one of the
I love
probably
a lot of
my
hair
favorite show.
metal. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean like Poison,
and
Motley Crue, Def
I love it.
Leppard. Like Def Leppard is still one of my favorite bands.
Yep, for sure. I love all that. Guns N' Roses.
No, man, they're re-releasing Use Your Illusions here like next week or something like that.
Cool.
They're doing, I'm down for it. So I already got it on Apple, so it's gonna be awesome.
Nice.
All right, Jeremy, we are running out of time here, buddy. Where can we find you? Where can we view your movies? How can we level up our awesome?
It's very easy. You could search my name. So if you have like an Amazon Fire Stick, you can just search it right there, Jeremy Norrie, and most of my movies come up that way. Or you can go to my website, theskyisland.com. All my movies have links there. You can watch them for free somewhere. They're on YouTube. They're on Amazon, Tubi TV. Some of them are on Pluto. Some of them are on Apple. Some of them are on Roku. So wherever you may watch movies, you could probably find them. And then on Amazon, and then coming soon to other places, my book, Jack Moves, just came out like last week or it was maybe the beginning of this week even. And it is about all the stuff from my early years, my adventures in marijuana. So
awesome. Well, I thank you so much for joining me for a wonderful episode of the Fandemic. You can tweet at me at Fandemic3, message me on Facebook at the Fandemic. I'm also active on TikTok. I do some fun little reviews and things like that. And I record my daughter doing goofy stuff because it's fun. If you want to support the show, there are several ways to do so. You can buy me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/thefandemic. Become a monthly supporter like Stacy at anchor.fm/PVOTN, or just share the show with someone you want to make a little more awesome. Don't forget to leave a 5-star review. Now, Jeremy, I think we are at max levels of awesome for the week. Let's end like I like to do every week on a positive note. What are your final words of wisdom, sir?
Yes. So I always try to encourage people to, when you're facing something, try to look at it with an attitude of gratitude. And the more you can kind of change your thoughts into the thoughts that you want to have, the better your life experience will be and the more positive it will be. So don't be a victim of your own negative thoughts. Control your negative thoughts, change them into grateful thoughts, and appreciate where you are rather than think about any sort of other negative thing, and move forward from there.
I love it. We're all playing the same game in life, just on a different level. Thanks for catching up. You're welcome for leveling up your awesome. Live free or die empty, and don't forget to have a great day.